Think of icons like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, or Peyton Manning, legends who actually found elite success with two different franchises. However, for most gridiron titans, trying to recapture glory in a new city late in the game usually ends in disaster. They looked completely wrong in those colors, and likely wish those final chapters could be erased from the history books forever. Here are 10 legendary NFL icons who finished their careers playing for some seriously bizarre teams. First up, Jerry Rice as a Seattle Seahawk. The undisputed greatest receiver ever spent 16 seasons as the face of the NFL's gold standard, the San Francisco 49ers. Already champions under Bill Walsh, the 49ers struck absolute gold by snatching Rice 16th overall in 1985. From that moment on, Rice became the heart and soul of the entire San Francisco organization. He powered the team to 3 Super Bowl titles during a career that redefined what it means to be a legend. But as the dynasty faded and Terrell Owens emerged as the new alpha wideout, the era finally came to an end. Management made the brutal call to cut their greatest icon loose after 16 incredible years of service. To his credit, Rice actually pulled off a stunning career revival with the Oakland Raiders. He posted 2,000-yard seasons and led them to Super Bowl 37 before falling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oakland served as a respectable second act for the aging king, but when he was shipped to Seattle in 2004, the vibe shifted from legendary to just plain weird. We all know the Seahawks are a powerhouse today with a massive, respected following across the league. They stacked 4 NFC titles and 2 Super Bowl banners during a dominant 20-year run starting in 2005. But younger fans need to realize how irrelevant the Seahawks were before that magical 2005 season. Before that turning point, the franchise had gone nearly 2 decades without winning a single playoff game. Their luck only changed in 2002 when realignment moved them to the NFC to accommodate the expansion Houston Texans. It felt incredibly surreal seeing a legend like Rice land in that struggling Seattle environment. The greatest to ever play the game just never looked right in that neon blue and green jersey. He managed 25 catches for 362 yards before finally walking away after the 2004 season. Next is Emmitt Smith joining the Arizona Cardinals. Ask any modern fan where the league's all-time leading rusher spent his final 2 professional seasons. Almost everyone will instinctively say the Dallas Cowboys and leave it at that. Probably fewer than 10% could actually tell you he finished his legendary career in Arizona. The rushing king was the engine of a Cowboys dynasty that claimed 3 world titles between 1992 and 95. This 4-time rushing champ spent 13 years as the centerpiece of America's team from 1990 to 2002. In his final Dallas stretch, Smith still ground out 975 yards and 5 touchdowns for the team. It was the first time since his rookie campaign that he failed to hit the 1,000-yard mark. Recognizing his prime was over, Dallas made the agonizing choice to release their greatest back in 2003. Smith didn't wait long before Arizona unexpectedly signed him to a 2-year veteran deal. His first season in the desert was a complete nightmare plagued by constant injuries. However, in his 2004 final stand, the rushing king found one last spark, churning out 937 yards and 9 scores for the Cardinals. It has been over 20 years since Smith took his final snap on an NFL field. Yet, seeing him in that Cardinals red still feels wrong. Now, consider Johnny Unitas with the San Diego Chargers. Long before icons like Montana, Manning, or Brady took over the league, Unitas was the undisputed gold standard for every quarterback in professional football history. After being rejected by Pittsburgh in 1955, he transformed into a legend with the Baltimore Colts. By the following year, he was already a Pro Bowler leading the league in passing yards and touchdowns. From there, the man known as the Golden Arm became the most feared passer in the game. He secured 3 MVP trophies and led Baltimore to championships in 1958, 59, and 68. That victory secured the Colts their inaugural Lombardi Trophy, taking down Dallas in Super Bowl V. But during that clash, Unitas went down with busted ribs, forcing Earl Morrall into action. That sidelining cleared the path for Morrall to seize the starting role throughout the 1971 campaign. Unitas spent his final 2 Baltimore years riding the pine before being shipped to San Diego in 1973. Honestly, seeing Unitas in a Chargers jersey felt like a glitch in the Matrix right from the jump. He plummeted from the face of a storied dynasty to an absolute basement-dweller franchise. To make matters even more painful, he looked like a total ghost of himself in 1973, hitting just 44.7% of passes with 7 picks to only 3 scores. San Diego eventually pulled the plug, handing the keys to a future icon, Dan Fouts. The rest became legend. Now, look at Ed Reed on the New York Jets. Arguably the top safety ever, Reed reached his peak when Baltimore crushed San Francisco in Super Bowl 47. Following that ring, the Ravens went into full-on fire sale mode. The legendary Ray Lewis hung them up, while Anquan Boldin was shipped off to the Niners. Reed hit the open market and eventually inked a $15 million, 3-year deal with Houston. 7 games later, the struggling Texans cut him loose. Rex Ryan snatched him off waivers for the Jets, creating one of the league's most bizarre alliances. Surprisingly, he looked sharp, snagging 3 picks and 4 deflections during his short New York stint. He retired right after, but those snapshots of Reed in Jets green will always haunt us. It felt as surreal as Pete Davidson dating Kim Kardashian. Now, let us talk Terrell Owens and the Buffalo Bills. T.O. bounced around 5 different squads during his legendary Hall of Fame run. Fans remember his 8-year stretch in San Francisco and his explosive, messy 2 years in Philly. And love him or hate him, no one forgot those 3 chaotic seasons Owens spent with Tony Romo in Dallas. I mean, that really was his quarterback. Plus, that 1-year disaster with Chad Johnson in Cincinnati made for some truly unforgettable photos in Bengals orange. But his 2009 run with the Buffalo Bills? How did the best receiver of the 2000s end up on such a sinking ship? Who was even calling the plays? Can anyone even name the guy throwing him the ball? That whole 2009 roster was a total mystery. In his second-to-last year, Owens still managed 55 grabs for 829 yards and 5 scores in Buffalo. Honestly, that is impressive for a 36-year-old trapped on a completely hopeless team. Adrian Peterson in a Lions jersey. It is wild that a legendary back of his caliber played for 7 different teams. Consider this, the great Emmit Smith only ever suited up for 2. Barry Sanders never left Detroit. Walter Peyton was a Bear through and through. Jim Brown stayed a Cleveland Brown until the end. You see where I'm going with this. Peterson spent his first decade dominating for the Minnesota Vikings, obviously. Fans still recall his strange 2017 season bouncing between the Cardinals and the Saints. We remember his Washington comeback and his final 2021 split between Seattle and Tennessee. But are you seriously telling me this man was a Detroit Lion in 2020? In what alternate reality did that happen? Oh, ours? Seriously? Apparently, AP took a 1-year flyer with Detroit right before the 2020 kickoff. Despite the team being a total train wreck, a 35-year-old Peterson still grinded out over 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. Darrelle Revis in a Chiefs uniform. Revis spent most of his elite career as a Jet, building a Hall of Fame resume. Between his New York stints, he had a year in Tampa and a championship run with New England, hitting the absolute lottery. Revis finally snagged his Super Bowl ring during that 2014 season with the Patriots. After that title, he headed back to New York on a massive multi-year deal in 2015. Right now, Revis's second New York stint was a total nightmare. He got torched all 2016 until they finally cut him. This 7-time Pro Bowler sat idle until a desperate Kansas City squad threw him a lifeline in 2017. He played just 5 games for the Chiefs, looking like a total shell of his former self. Consequently, management dumped him after a playoff collapse, and he retired. Now, let's talk Randy Moss's weird Titans era. Minnesota fans will always cherish those electric first 7 seasons when Moss ruled the league. That awkward 2010 reunion? Yeah, let's just pretend that one never actually happened. Everyone remembers his legendary dominance while catching deep balls for the New England Patriots. And his Raiders era? It was a total train wreck, but certainly way too chaotic to forget. Niners fans definitely remember him almost snatching a ring during that wild Super Bowl 47 run. Naturally, Baltimore spoiled the party, but Moss somehow ended up wearing a Titans jersey before finishing. Seriously, it feels like a glitch in the Matrix, but the history books don't lie. We are not making this up. New England shipped him back to Minnesota in 2010, but he bombed and Tennessee snatched him up. He caught exactly 6 passes for 80 yards and 0 scores. Pure mediocrity in a Titans uniform. At least his Niners stint had some flashes of brilliance, unlike that ghost of a season in Tennessee. Deion Sanders, Baltimore Ravens. Sanders is one of those rare icons whose legacy is burned into 3 different legendary franchises. Like LeBron James, he is tied forever to 3 specific cities and their histories. Primetime is defined by his high-stakes years in Atlanta, San Francisco, and Dallas. He spent his first 5 professional seasons dominating as an Atlanta Falcon. Then he joined the Niners in 1994 and instantly snatched his first championship ring. He signed with Dallas in 1995, won again, and stayed through 99. Most of you might recall his brief 1-year cameo in Washington back in 2000, but he only finished a single year of that massive 7-year pact worth $56 million before hanging up his cleats. That seemed like the curtain call, until he shocked the world by joining the Ravens in 2004. Even with legends like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed patrolling the field, Deion looked more out of place than a rookie on a varsity squad. After 2 lackluster seasons in Baltimore, he finally called it quits after 2005. Joe Namath, Los Angeles Rams. Some Hall of Fame gunslingers just cannot accept when the ride is over. Between the Unitas disaster and the Brett Favre circus, Joe Namath was easily the worst at reading the writing on the wall. It doesn't erase the magic he brought to the Jets organization, but seriously, his legacy would feel a whole lot cleaner if he had stayed in New York green forever. The top 1965 pick lead the Jets to a miracle Super Bowl III upset. That victory turned Broadway Joe into a permanent New York deity. Sadly, a crumbling body and shaky stats ruined his final stretch in the Big Apple. They cut him in 1977, leading to a weird landing with the Los Angeles Rams. His arm was shot. He struggled to complete half his throws, tossing 3 scores against 5 picks. L.A. saw enough and benched him for Pat Hayden to save their season. Namath finally retired after that 1977 season, ending on a totally forgettable note out west. Which other gridiron giants ended up in jerseys that just make zero sense? Drop your take in the comments. If this hit home and leveled you up, slamming that like button fuels the fire. We see you. New to the TPS roster? Join us. We drop daily heat you can't miss. Respect the grind. Catch you next time. Listen up. Bottom line,